Izzy Lara. It was my wedding day, and strangely, the first time I would meet the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. In our families, arranged marriages were more like beautifully composed surprises, a meeting of souls chosen by those who loved us most. The house was glowing with fairy lights. Soft music floated through the hallways. I had imagined this moment 100 times, but nothing could prepare me for the feeling of actually stepping into that room, the one everyone called the wedding room. He was already there, standing, nervous, fixing the cuff of his navy blue sherwani. His name was Oren. Our eyes met. There was no dramatic music, no sudden magic, just a quiet recognition, like finding a song you didn't know you'd been humming all your life. He smiled first. "Hi," I gasped. "This is our official hello." I smiled back. "Hello?" It wasn't awkward. It was calm, as if we both knew this story had already begun, and we were just turning the first page. We sat on opposite ends of the ornate bed, the air between us filled with scented candles and 100 unspoken questions. Oren broke the silence. "Did you ever imagine meeting like this?" I shook my head. "Not quite like this, but it feels less strange than I expected." He nodded. "I was afraid I'd feel like a stranger in my own wedding." I laughed gently. "Well, technically you are a stranger, but a friendly one, I hope." I smiled. So far, we began talking, not about love or future, but small things, favorite color, books we liked. I found out he loved puzzles. I told him I collect postcards from places I've never visited. He said, "That sounds like someone who loves stories." "I do," I replied. "Maybe that's why I'm okay with this. Our story has a unique beginning." He looked thoughtful. "Ha, maybe that's why I'm okay with this. Our story has a unique beginning." He looked thoughtful. "Maybe the best ones do." And just like that, the first layer of unfamiliarity melted. The morning after our wedding, we had breakfast on the balcony of his parents' house. The sky was gentle blue, and a breeze carried the smell of toast and rosewater. "Are you tired?" he asked, sipping tea. "Only emotionally," I laughed. "Too many new faces, too many versions of congratulations." He smiled. "Same here." We talked about our childhood, his treehouse, my fear of heights, our shared dislike for raisins. Then something shifted. Oren brought out a small notebook. "I started writing letters," he said, "to my future wife. I wrote 27. Never knew if I'd use them." He handed me one. My heart slowed. The letter wasn't poetic. It was real. Honest thoughts about waiting, about hope, about wanting to grow with someone, that was the moment I realized Oren didn't just marry me. He had been preparing to meet me in ways I hadn't imagined. That evening, we took a walk in the garden behind the house. Fireflies danced like tiny lanterns. We spoke less. The silence wasn't heavy. It was shared. He asked, "Do you think people can build a bond before they really know each other?" I replied, "If both are open to learning, yes." He thought for a second. "Then I want to learn about you, not just what you like, but how you think." I looked at him. "I'd like that." We made a game of it, one question each night, simple yet revealing. That night, his question was, "What's your comfort place?" I answered, "Rainy windows and warm socks." He smiled. "Mine's a soft chair with a puzzle box nearby." Our story was becoming ours. Gently, naturally. Days passed. We moved into our own apartment. It had creaky floors, beige walls, and one stubborn window that refused to open. But it was ours. We spent our first night unpacking and laughing over kitchen tools we didn't know how to use. "I feel like we're building something," Oren said. "A home? A rhythm." He was right. Marriage wasn't just about sharing a room. It was about adjusting the volume of life so two people can dance to the same tune. We started a tradition. Sunday breakfasts in pajamas. No phones, only music. One Sunday, as sunlight fell on the kitchen counter, Oren looked at me and said, "This is the happiest I've felt in a long time." And I knew. The wedding room might have been where we met, but here is where we were truly beginning. 1 month in, we faced our first challenge. Not a big one, just a misunderstanding. I misread his silence after work. He misunderstood my quiet mood. But instead of letting the silence grow louder, we sat down. "I didn't mean to seem distant," he said. "I just needed a pause." I nodded, and I took that personally. We talked, listened, apologized. It was uncomfortable, but necessary. That night, we didn't go to bed upset. We made warm cocoa and sat by the window, watching rain blur the city lights. Sometimes love isn't in the big gestures. It's in learning how to disagree without disconnecting. That night, we learned how to be on the same team, even during a storm. As winter arrived, our home took on new colors. Blankets on every chair, mugs always warm, fairy lights on the shelf. Oren started writing again. I began painting in the mornings. One evening he said, "Let's create something together." So we did. A shared journal. He'd write a sentence. I'd respond with a sketch. Then I'd write, he'd doodle. It was silly and beautiful. We named it Our Ongoing story. It wasn't perfect. Some pages were smudged, some words messy, but it was ours, raw and real. Looking through it one night, he said, "If someone asked me what love looks like, I'd show them this." And I knew this wasn't just creativity, it was communication. Through ink, through color, through care. We visited his grandparents in Vermont for the holidays. They'd been married 50 years. His grandmother whispered to me, "The secret is not in never disagreeing. It's in always remembering you're both on the same side." That night, Orrin and I talked about what we wanted the next year to look like. He said, "Let's travel more." I said, "Let's write our first children's book together." We laughed, but not because it was silly, because it felt possible. On the train back, he held my hand and said, "This feels like the beginning of something again." And I realized real love isn't a straight line. It loops, expands, begins again. Every day you choose each other. Spring came and we planted herbs on the balcony. Orrin named the basil plant Courage. One morning, I found a sticky note on the fridge. "Thank you for being my peace." It wasn't a special day, just a Tuesday, but his words made it unforgettable. Later that evening, I asked, "When did you know we were right for each other?" He said, "The night we argued and still chose kindness." I smiled. "I think I knew the first time you offered to share your tea." We laughed. Simple things had become significant. That's what love does. Turns ordinary into extraordinary. Through consistency. 1 year from the day we first met in the wedding room, we returned to it. The room was empty now. No flowers, no guests, just us. I asked, "Do you remember how quiet it was that day?" He nodded. It felt like the world was holding its breath. We sat on the same bed, now older, stronger. "I'm glad it was you," I said. He replied, "I'm glad it's still you." Then he opened the notebook of letters, the one he'd given me months ago. He had written a new one. It ended with, "This is not the end of our story. It's just the start of chapter 2. And we smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because we were writing it together.